Okay, so I said I'm gonna do more videos, and I'm doing that. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, I finished an interesting program called Vision Quest Soulcraft. It's a 10-day long program where you immerse yourself into your soul. It's definitely not something that I would normally do, and even more so something that I'm not used to talking about, especially publicly. But here you go. So I think the background is I'll try to make it short, is that, let's say for me, from the age of 20 to 30, my focus was to build a company, make money, and it still is, but maybe with different motivations. And the real motivation was to prove to myself, to others, that I can do it, build my ego, find my professional identity, and do things like that, which people do at that age. And once I did it, and it came faster than I maybe planned. Here we are on the beach. Super nice weather, end of August in Latvia. It's unbelievable. And once I did a lot of those things, then you start searching for more meaning, for other things inside of yourself, more than in the outside world. You can't be a egotistic prick all your life, so I gotta change that a little bit. Effectively, I was interested to spend some time alone, and this program contains a few days where you sit basically alone, completely in the nature without any disruption, and you're fasting, so you're not eating. And those things appealed to me because I thought, okay, I want to take a bit of a break, have time to really think, reflect, maybe plan, etc., etc. So that was my motivation. But really, underneath, I knew that there was something maybe bigger shift in terms of interests in life and values and motivations. I took this program. When I arrived there, I understood, it's gonna be pretty hard. 10 days of introspective work. It's definitely no fucking holiday. Eventually I got there. In terms of the program and what it consists of, I would say it's a group therapy format. Through nature-based activities and practices, you work on yourself. And I'm not gonna go into more detail because it's hard to describe, and it would not be fair to explain and describe all the different techniques and practices. But some of them are prayers, and prayers in a meaning of the word that you're not necessarily praying God. For me, practicing prayer, that's quite a thing, when you're speaking out loudly, things that you wish for yourself, for the world, for the nature, for other people, etc., etc. That in itself is quite a stretch to learn prayer, right? I'm not a religious person. I haven't done that. So that's one thing that you do, and there's a bunch of others. It takes a couple of days to, in a group setting with 3 guides, or with guides that help manage the process, to work on different practices, to do a lot of different things, where really the purpose is to shift your awareness and your consciousness from an everyday life where you're just doing everything you're doing in your life, to more present, aware level of consciousness where you're in tune with not only yourself but with nature. Because, and this is one of the things that comes through this program, but it's evident that we're pretty disconnected in a modern life. We're pretty disconnected from nature. We're disconnected largely from each other, even though we have social media, so it seems like we're closer, but nevertheless, and importantly, disconnected from ourselves. And I think for me, for sure, in many ways, working on business, building companies, and being busy and having all these objectives to reach, which makes me, or makes a person be perceived as very successful and looked upon positively in our Western culture. If you think that that's going to provide meaning for the whole life, then it doesn't work for me, for sure. And so what happens is, then you have these few days of introduction, then you have a few days where you are going on a vision quest, on a solo, basically. It's called a solo, where you have your own tent or whatever, tarp, and you spend literally a few days fasting and by the nature, completely alone, with no phones, no books, etc., etc. So that's a real time to reflect, to connect to the nature, to be in tune with your feelings rather than your thoughts, to really shift your everyday consciousness, which was very powerful, right? It's definitely very powerful. You become far more sensitive and aware, largely aware of your feelings, of the surrounding nature, and then the idea is to carry that into your everyday life through different practices. That's the summary of the program that I've been through. I will in the description of this video I will also share books that one can read to really get a broader, better understanding of what this all means, with examples of the practices, and getting used to the vocabulary, because it's pretty different from, say, business people use on an everyday basis. Things like soul, and an interesting kind of conclusion for me in terms of what does soul actually mean. It's your own unique self. What is unique about you, as opposed to what's common for all of us, what unites, what is something that is common for all people. Soul is really the opposite. What's unique, special about you. So connecting to that is the largely purpose of that program, and people do it in different ways based on what their motivations, what their sufferings, their traumas, their longings are. I will add a lot of links and maybe mention of some books in the description. Who knows, maybe it's useful for somebody. For sure, for me it was useful. It's just generally going to these types of things. It's not a holiday. Those are not days off. It's pretty intense work on yourself. It's very useful. It just gives more angles, more colors to how you view life, and I think that's very useful. I'll see you in the next video.